Like, how did your perception of China change over the last 20 years? I mean, like, I'm sure there was a lot of development over that time.
Yeah.
Like, what was the trajectory like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So China has developed a lot over those years, and it's clear to see the development from there while living there. As an example, I think there was no subway lines when I was first there in Nanjing. And then they built one, and then they just kept building and building. I don't know how many. They have a huge map of this network of subway tunnels now. I don't even know how many it is, something like 15 lines or something. And it's like that in all their infrastructure. There's more roads, way more buildings. The culture has been shifting in China as well too. People make more money, and like in general, it was on like an upward trajectory for a long time, but it hit some snags in the COVID era, right? That's when there's some more problems with the economy and and people expressing that they are having problems too.
Like, China has changed so much, right? In the last, I don't know how many years, but I feel like maybe this is my own ignorance, but I feel like a lot of Canadians don't have like a clear image of how China really is. Like, people have opinions about China, sometimes negative ones, but I don't feel like people really know a lot about that country in particular. Like, what are some misconceptions about the country that you hear in China, in Canada, about China?
Yeah, sure. Well, if people haven't been somewhere else and experienced it, then it's natural that they won't know much about it. Like, I don't know much about the Philippines, for example. But the special thing about China is that people that haven't been there will have opinions about it that are often based just on misinformation. There's a lot of China haters out there.
Yeah.
So what was your question exactly?
So, like, what are some misconceptions about China that you hear in Canada?
Some misconceptions. Well, I make videos about China, short videos about them, stories from the Chinese internet and stuff. One of the most common things, people will come on there and they'll say that I'm probably paid by the Chinese government. They'll say it's propaganda or something. Like my video that came out yesterday, it was just about a guy who like quit his engineering job and started selling these Xiaobing like flatbread on the street. And, some people say, oh, this is propaganda. I don't know what kind of propaganda this is exactly. Like,
it's not good propaganda.
He's not even making a lot of money. Like, I don't know. So they'll think that. And I don't know, maybe some of the people posting videos about China are paid by the Chinese government. I wouldn't be surprised about that. But I don't know. People will say that about any video or any content that comes from China that is like marginally positive or neutral. Okay. And that's definitely not the case. People will think that the government is involved in all aspects of the economy and all businesses, and that there's a lot of oversight and they're really restricting you a lot. And again, that might be the case for some industries, but for a business like mine, like I have a marketing agency, it's based in Nanjing, incorporated. I mean, there's a corporation in Canada and China. That kind of business, like, I never see the government, we just pay taxes and follow the rules, and that's about it. So you're pretty free to do a lot of types of business and a lot of things in China.
I think that idea of censorship, people talk about that. I hear that a lot here. Like, anytime there's any question about like how much the government is involved with what you're doing, it's like, oh, what are we, communist China? And it's like, well, I don't think it's not communist to begin with, but that's something that I've learned about through doing this podcast with people in China, that like, there's a balance between the amount that the government is involved in your day-to-day life, or the amount of control they might have over citizens, and also like safety. Those are two things that like are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I hear a lot about control in China, granted from people that don't really know what they're talking about, but I hear a lot about control, but I don't hear a lot about like the benefits that could bring in terms of like low crime rates and, low amounts of drugs and illegal weapons and things like that. How does that balance look for you as someone who does know about China?
I don't know a lot about the details of politics, but I can talk about my experience living there and doing business. And like, I do feel safe in China, and my wife, my kids, they feel safe there too. There is in general, Chinese people would not want to let their kids go run around the city on their own. So that's a trend that has happened both in Canada and there. Like when I was a kid, in Canada, I could go out after school and I'd run into the river valley, a huge river valley, like park system in Edmonton. I could run in there and my parents wouldn't know where I am. And I just come back later, like come back for supper, or I could be gone for a long time on some days. And it could be minus 30 Celsius. I could be out there with my friends. They don't know where I am. And in China, that used to happen more too, based on my conversations with people through my Chinese videos that I make in China. A lot of people say the same thing. So they're not really like, so feeling so safe that they let their kids go anywhere. Okay. So that's, I'm explaining this in a way that is not exactly what the like super, super pro China people would say, or how do I describe it? Okay, so there's two types of misinformation online. The loudest one that we're going to see in English is going to be the China haters. Everything China does is bad, right? But there's also a quieter type that is just like everything in China is good and there's no problems ever.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that wouldn't be true for any country. Like saying that it's all bad or it's all good isn't valid for any place in the world. There's always pros and cons. And I guess that's why I look at it as a bit of a seesaw kind of thing where it's like, you have some benefits over here and some disadvantages, and like how much individual freedoms are you willing to give up for this amount of safety, and how much safety do you get? Like it's a balance, of course. It's not like, it's not like you can have all of one or all of another. The idea that people don't let their kids kind of run around like maybe they used to, I do wonder how much of that is cultural more than anything else. I mean, I think in terms of most metrics, we're probably safer now in terms of violent crime than we ever were before. But people don't let their kids run around and maybe it's because we're connected to media in a way that we weren't before. And so we're aware of things that go on where, maybe in previous times we didn't know, there was kind of that, ignorance. Ignorance is bliss.
Well, I think it's, we have so much information from all around the world. So it makes us more anxious and more scared about things that we wouldn't ever know. I don't know if you saw a lot of videos online about sinkholes in a certain time. Have you?
Not really.
Okay. Cause I had a trend in my own social media. Maybe it was just me or some people where I saw like one video of a sinkhole with, like a hole opens up in the ground and a car falls into it. Right. And I watched that one, and then I started seeing more videos about sinkholes, and then cause the algorithm knew that I was seeing this, and I was like, oh man. Yeah. And then I started like imagining when I'm going out, like, oh, I wonder if that, that place is safe to walk on. maybe a sinkhole is going to open up, but it's an extremely rare thing in anywhere. Right. I think it is anyways.
I mean, I haven't really heard of any sinkholes, so I think it's not that common. Yeah, it's like a new fear that we can unlock in our minds. When I was in university, I took communication and media studies, and one of the terms that they used in one of those classes, talking about media literacy, was the mean world syndrome, where if you consume enough news that talks about bad things happening, you'll have a skewed perception of the world to assume that it's happening to me, or it's going to happen to my kids, or it's happening more than it actually is happening. Do horrible things happen in the world? Of course they do. But those are the things that are also more desirable for viewers, things that draw attention, right? And social media is an example of that as well. You kind of need big stories to draw attention, and so it can skew your perception in that regard, I guess.